Deebs, and I'm here with my co-host Jeff, aka DJ Crop Duster.
DJ Crop Duster.
You like that? Huh? That was one of the names of the teams when they showed all the basketball players or whatever they were.
Yeah. It was
And
I can't remember like the
the Windbreakers versus
scheme,
the
the
Crop Dusters.
Windbreakers. Yeah, that's what
They're
it
both
was.
fart jokes, which is like amazing.
Gotta love
Well,
Pixar.
I know. Well, listen, we got to introduce you guys to our guest. We've had her on our podcast a while ago. It's been a while, but welcome back, Marmar. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're great. We're great, man. We miss you. We haven't seen you since Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think that was the last show we or movie we talked about.
Yeah, definitely. It's
Yeah,
been a while.
That was what,
yeah.
summer
And
of last year?
I
Yeah.
know
Wow. A
it's
lot of
Oh
talking,
wow.
definitely.
yeah, absolutely. So we're super excited to have you. And like when I watched this movie, Elemental, I was like, you know what? Marmar would really like this movie. So I went out to her
I
naturally,
like
hey,
this
did
movie.
you
Yeah.
watch this movie? And she's like, yeah. I was like, well, you need to come on our podcast because we would love to talk to you about it. Because I remember last time you were on our show and we talked about Everything Everywhere All at Once. There was a lot of similarities from the character and her family and her being immigrants and Asian. And I feel like this movie also had a lot of the same vibes.
hmm
And I was like, oh man, I would love to get you back on the show and to talk about it. And I'm so happy that you accepted.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to be here and talk about this incredible movie with you guys as well too.
And
So
like it was a sleeper hit. Like it didn't do well in like
yeah,
the box office at all. And all of a sudden it just like blew up weeks later, I guess from like
yeah,
word of mouth, which is, a
definitely.
testament to how good it is.
Yeah. Did you guys watch it when it first came out, or were you kind of? Or,
No. I
I,
was in the Poconos babysitting my nieces and they put it on and I'm just like, all right,
okay.
whatever. And then I was like, after we watched Cars 3 for like the 11th time, we were like, all right, let's put on Elementals. And I watched it and I was like, holy shit, this movie is amazing.
Yeah, I remember when it first came out, a lot of people didn't want to watch it because when two of Wade's brothers or siblings, right? When they went to the
Oh yeah.
water,
hmm
that was like somehow interpreted as being trans, and then everyone was very anti that because the same bullshit that happens all the time.
hmm
And
What?
so yeah, that's really why
Yeah.
when Elemental first came
Sibling.
out there was a lot of quote unquote controversy about it, but no, it was just so dumb and people just love to hate everything for no reason.
No way. I had no idea. I didn't pick up on that at all when I watched it.
It's a very like blink and you'll miss kind of remark in the when they're in the when Wade's family is there and then like introducing all the family members and then it was just like, oh yeah, this is his sibling and that's their partner, and then it was just like, oh yeah, hi, and then you never really hear from them after that, but somehow that's the sticking point of the entire movie for a lot of
It was
people.
literally like 5 seconds. Like you
Yeah.
couldn't even. I didn't even remember it when I first watched it, and I was like,
I didn't notice it at all till you guys brought it up. I was like, what are you guys talking
"Yeah."
about? Like
But that little scene is
Mhm.
why there was a massive boycott of this allegedly.
I was like, do you mean they were translucent? Like, is that what you mean?
Yes,
I have no idea. That's
that's
crazy.
my headcanon. They're translucent. That's what they meant. And then everybody boycotted it because they had no idea it meant trans.
Oh man, that's funny. That is crazy. I did not hear about that at all. That's pretty crazy. All right. But let's get into it because I have a lot of things to talk about in this movie and it's really
Mhm.
cool. Obviously this movie is centered around the immigrant experience, and which is really cool because a lot of the immigrant experience is very, I would say, universal. Like there's a lot of things that I could relate there, even though he did say that the director said that this was based on his life because he lived in the Bronx and his family owned like a grocery store.
Mhm.
And if you watch the episode that comes on after it, it's called Chemistry with Pixar or something like that. They show his store and it's really cool. Like I think some Indian people took it over and he went in there and he like designed it kind of based off of his old store, and it was really cool. He was in there and he was like, yes, my dad built that, my dad built that.
Oh
So
wow.
it was a really cute little, like, after you watch this movie it shows up on the screen. It's called Chemistry, and you get to see his life, but it's really cool because like you could definitely relate to it. uh if you're an immigrant, regardless of what kind of immigrant you are. Mama, what were your thoughts when you watched it?
Well, yeah, it was. I loved it from beginning to end. Honestly, it was. I think it. I also didn't expect it to not only. I mean, I knew going in that it was going to have those elements of an immigrant experience, and then, but not like. I was surprised that it was also from this, like from the context of kind of like a rom com as well too,
Yeah,
and it was cool to see that it was like within like so many like the immigrant story is like just so multifaceted, and then just to kind of hone in on a specific facet of it, which is like falling in love and like interracial dating was something that I wasn't expecting, and I really liked it. I enjoyed the rom com aspect of the immigrant story of Elemental, and I mean it's Disney and Pixar, so just the animation was always going to be like just top tier, but it just kind of the world building of Elemental as well too. It was just like the colors and the cinematography, and it's just like
yeah,
kind of a kaleidoscope, and then it was just so it didn't feel too overwhelming as well too. So I loved all like the clouds, and then the tree people, and then yeah, of course the fire people, and then the water people, and then just how those elements are like I think add that additional symbolism and like layer to the kind of that universal story of being immigrants.
yeah.
But
I'm glad you brought up the point about it being a bit of a rom com, because there's definitely a lot of vibes from other rom coms that like I
mhm,
can see it. Like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner is
mhm,
definitely an inspiration. Moonstruck,
mhm,
Amelie, like these are the movies that like they kind of like took inspiration from, and I was like, yeah, I get it. Like, and it was a good take on it. I really did like that. I thought that was cool. And then you see like the immigrants coming in from like Ellis Island, kind of where they're
yes,
just like coming into this new world and this new city where everybody is connected, and there's like a melting pot, which I never liked the term melting pot, because I feel like a melting pot puts everything and makes it taste all the same. I feel like we're more of a salad. Like everybody has their own
mhm.
unique individual taste still. Jazz, what were your thoughts?
This movie was just phenomenal. Sorry. Um, I watched it because you were like, "Oh, we got to do a podcast on Elemental," and I saw the tweet, and I'm like, "It's 3 a.m. I got nothing going on. You know what? Let me just watch it real quick." And like within 2 hours, I was like, "Yeah, we're doing this."
Mhm.
Uh, it hit so close to home, man. You know, my family, we have a small business as well, small-ish. Um, and I work there myself. I am taking it over, so this was like very similar to my story as well. And
Oh wow.
just seeing it on the big screen was like, oh my god,
Mhm.
this is amazing. And I still need to make sure my parents watch it because I think they would love it too. So this is definitely a
Yeah.
family movie. Highly
Mhm.
recommend it. And if you are someone who has a small business, or your family has a small business, I think you'll really enjoy it.
Did you cry, Jazz?
I may have.
Little bitch. No,
I
I'm just
definitely did. It didn't mean much. It again, like I think I knew the story was going to have emotional beats to it, but I just
yeah.
remember watching with my friend, and then especially the ending. I think it just was so overwhelming.
Oh, I lost it at the
Oh,
ending. That
the
was
ending.
that was
It kind of
tough.
similar to like Everything Everywhere, where it kind of creeps up on you, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're just like, I'm a puddle. Like literally, I'm Wade.
That's true, man. The the way they build it up is just amazing.
Did you cry, Neebs?
Today,
Bless you.
I did tear up at one scene. I did tear up at one scene,
Mhm.
but not the scene that you might think, or maybe it is.
You little bitch.
Let's talk about it. One of the things that I really found interesting was when the Irish people, which I guess is a take on Irish people, which I thought was very clever. I love
Mhm.
that. I thought that was great. And also like there has been documented cases of like prejudice against the Irish when they came here and stuff like that. So I thought that was very interesting. But when they come in here, they're like, yeah, we're not gonna let you use your name. We're gonna give you brand new names. And I thought that was very interesting because that happens a lot to people here. In fact, there's
Mhm.
like a joke for some South Asians where they're like everyone's mother is born January 1st because the husbands when they were applying they didn't know their their wives' birthday, so they just put January 1st on like all of their documents. So when they came, every single like mom was born January 1st.
That's
Funny
funny.
story. My dad's birthday is January 1st.
That's so funny.
and or his legal birthday is January 1st. His actual birthday is June 1st. But what happened was when he wrote January, he wrote JAN, and
Yeah.
the U looked like an A.
Oh yeah.
So they made it
Uh,
January 1st,
Oh.
and then we just never got it corrected. But yes, that does happen quite often.
that's so funny. I thought that was pretty cool. Um,
But yeah,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, a lot of those from that was the beginning scene too, and then they kind of plant those like moments where you like, yeah, those kind of immigrant moments where it's like, yeah, like you go into a new country and then kind of just seeing the whole world, and then the world kind of seeing you so different, and you're feeling like, because they're basically the only fire people, at least like in that scene, and
yeah,
then like, for them to kind of just like come in with all these high hopes, and then kind of everyone else kind of looking at them differently, and then trying to find their place in this world, and
mhm,
then seeing that like over time and how they built that like the store and their family and that community and
yeah,
how it grew into that kind yeah to like that fire community where it's very similar to a lot of like those the Koreatowns and the Chinatowns and then like all those like little siloed like communities.
mhm.
It was great. Yeah, very relatable.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I also love the fact when all the people were coming to Elemental Island, they all came in different like transportations. Like the cloud people came in like a blimp, and then as soon as the cloud people left, the blimp deflated, and then the new people came in and it started like inflating again. I thought that was cool. And then the people who were water people, I guess, they were kind of like throwing their water all around, and it was getting splashed
Mhm.
on by the fire people, which kind of gave you an idea of like which elements have privilege and which ones do not. It seems like the water people had more privilege than some of the other people. I thought that was pretty interesting. And also I love the names like Ember, which is like, you know, reflected on fire, Wade, like wading in a pool, Cinder, Brook, Fern. I like all
Mhm.
these names. They were related to their element, which I thought was really clever and really creative. Like I love that aspect of it. I thought it was really cool. What about you guys?
Whoever did the writing, they knew what they were doing and they were cooking. Like they were just having fun with it.
Mhm.
And yeah, like you said, like these were all puns on the various elements out there.
Yeah.
Just well done. Like it was so on the nose too. Like it's very hard to miss. The only way you would miss it is if you just weren't paying attention.
The other thing is, I feel like Pixar doesn't miss because they take a long time with the movie. This movie took 6 years to develop. That's
Oh wow.
crazy. That's wild.
Yeah,
So they
shows.
better
Yeah.
not miss. So we learn a little bit about Ember. You know, her father came here as an immigrant, and then she's born, and you know he loves her very much, and he wants to set her up to take over the store. Only problem is she has a bit of a temper, right? And she blows up at people all the time. And I'm like, what like oldest daughter doesn't have a temper like, in an immigrant family? Like, first of all, that's so accurate.
Oldest sons too. This hit very close to home.
Yeah, I didn't have that much of a temper. I'm the oldest son too. I don't have much of a temper.
I used
Uh,
to. I used to have a very bad temper.
really? Not me.
Mhm.
Like, I was like, I didn't have too much of a temper, but I know a lot of like my cousins and stuff like that. They always have a temper, so I was like, yep, this makes sense.
As an
So
Marmar, what about
as an
you?
oldest daughter too, I think. Well, it's funny because for me, in comparison to my younger sister, who I think is a little bit more has a hotter temper than I do, but I think I one of the things I relate to, I think, with Ember being like the at least oldest like sibling, or just like having that like burden of like trying to continue that legacy that your parents have, and I think that and because of that, like that's why I think that temper was something that she didn't know what it was until she realized that it's something that's telling her that okay, like do I really want to run my father's shop or do I actually want something else? Or
yeah,
so I think yeah, I think that temper was something that was very it was used well because of the fire. So there's multiple meanings towards
yeah.
it well too, like that it's like fire as in like temper, but also like a fire that was burning inside her that she didn't know that was what it was telling her. She didn't know what it was telling her at the
I
moment.
think
So
they did a great job with that because I didn't suspect that she didn't want to take over her dad's shop until the
Mhm.
very end.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, she doesn't want to. and she's like, she probably herself didn't even know. So
Mhm.
I love the way the story just like progressed, and you slowly learn more and more about her. Another thing, we were talking about oldest siblings, and someone there was a meme. It was like someone asked, "Why is the oldest sibling so angry?" And someone replied, "Because we're raising our siblings, you idiot. We're basically teen moms." Because when you're an immigrant, your parents are busy, like, sacrificing and survival mode, and they're providing. So you get left in charge babysitting and taking care of the kids sometimes. So it's very, very true. Um, but yeah. Also, I love the fact like the dad holds a store, but the mom has like an astrology shop in the back,
Yeah.
which
Oh
I
yeah.
thought is
Hmm.
really interesting because that's a very Indian thing to do. I think they do
Mhm.
that with like what do you call it? What are those fire sticks? I forgot what they call sage and all of that stuff. And they do a lot of yes, Nav is here. Nav would know maybe, but there's a lot. Astrology is a big thing in Indian culture, especially when it comes to like matching people. So I don't know if you ever
Mhm.
seen Indian matchmaking or something like
Yeah.
that, where she goes to some kind of guru and they have to make sure that their faces match and their astrology matches and all of these things have to match. And I thought that was really funny that her mom was doing that in like a little corner of the shop, which is
Mhm.
very, very interesting.
It was a
That was
good way to integrate the rom-com aspect of the story, and then still with like the convenience store, and then like yeah, like that
yeah.
side. Those two of this like two of those aspects of the story were kind of like through that store. But yeah, I love the mom too, and I loved her when she chased down Ember all the way to
Yeah, yeah, that
the
scene is
water.
really great.
Like,
Nub here is saying that choosing a career that the elders don't approve of hits home for him. Yeah, I bet like being an artist or something like that is
mhm.
definitely something that's like not practical for a lot of these people. And then the people who are privileged have a little bit more, uh, I would say leeway to go and pursue these kind of careers, right? So when Wade's mom was like, "Hey, why don't you do this?" She can't really fathom like why someone wouldn't, right? It was very interesting to see that. What else? Also, I really love their clothing. So like their clothing was basically like glass, and a lot of Afghan and northern Pakistan culture actually has like vests and stuff that look exactly like that, just made out of glass and stuff, which is really
Mhm.
cool. I think it's something that we uh adapted from the Turkish people. But when I saw that, I was like, "Whoa, that's so cool!" Because it looks just like our like traditional clothing. So if you ever look at like Afghan traditional clothing, it's got glass everywhere and it's colorful and it looks just like their outfits, which I thought was really, really cool. So I really, really love that part. And then the story starts and we see Wade for the first time. Wade definitely just like pops up out of nowhere when she goes and has a little bit of a tantrum. What did you guys think of Wade?
Jazzy, you go first.
Marmara, go ahead. No, you
Oh,
go first.
okay. Um, he was adorable. I think it was just hilarious that it was like again multiple like meanings to it. So he was like a water guy, but then somehow he's like crying all the time and like just like like inundated with tears while he's still like a water person. Um,
Yeah.
but I think yeah, he has such like a cheesy charm to him, and I think it was nice to see someone who is so also I guess just a male character that was so in touch with their feelings in the way that Wade was. And it was like it was like kind of role reversal in a way because you had Ember who was just so like just hot headed and just always had a temper and just super stressed the entire time. And then you have Wade who's just like la la da, and then like the certain things just like get him very emotional, but in a way that's like um that he can connect with other people as well too. That's another aspect that he like that I think drew Ember in was that he was someone that was very personable and he had this like energy to him that people wanted to be near him as well too and connect with him. Like at the basketball game as well too. Like it was they complemented each other in a way. It was like a yin and yang kind of relationship and dynamic. And yeah, he was adorable.
Yeah. Jazz putting out this comment right here. I love how Wade was jacked when he showed up and then fixed himself. That
Yes,
is so
I
true.
loved that
That
too.
is
I was
so
like, oh, is he that big? And then it just like
She was like, "Oh, hold up." She's like, "Oh, never mind." I thought that was really
she
funny.
had that moment.
Uh,
You're like, oh, okay.
I also like the fact that the father actually had seen her chasing Wade,
Mhm.
and because of that, he just assumed, the worst with like, "Oh,
Yes.
water person came in here and sabotaged us and did some stuff. So the dad's a little racist,
Yep.
which isn't unheard of in these communities, because a lot of these communities, when you come in there, safety is an issue, and because you're treated a certain way and you have some trauma from your experiences, it leads to that. And we see it come full circle at the very end, but like it gave the show, the movie actually, more of a dynamic when you're like, oh man, she's got to overcome not just her father and her having this issue with the business, but also her father's like low-key racism. You got to get over that too. So an extra hurdle for them to tackle. What were your thoughts on them adding this element, no pun intended, to the story?
Bro, those puns are always intended, don't
Yeah.
lie. And it was a great touch. I can openly talk about this now because my mom has gotten better, but in the past, she was pretty racist. And just over time, when I had friends over, she slowly started to learn that, okay, wait a second, all these things I've learned from other people are not true. And so seeing this on the silver screen was also cool because like this isn't my mom's story as well now. It's not just my story. It's my whole family's story, and they really nailed a lot of these aspects. So it was a great addition to it. I think it actually added to the movie. I don't think it took away from it.
Yeah.
I'm glad they put it in there.
Yeah, I would agree. Marmar, what about you?
I also really liked how, I just have a thought and then it escaped me. But yeah, it was I like your point too, and I agree with like a lot of Bernie's like concern with Wade is somewhat valid too, because of his own experiences, and he just it's a safety issue and he wants to keep his daughter safe. But at the same time too, it's like, he's projecting his own prejudice onto Wade without really knowing Wade either. And another thing to that, and then the concept of interracial dating too is always interesting within our communities. And one scene that I actually really liked in the beginning was things with the mom, and the mom was telling Ember, like, it was your grandma's dying wish for you to marry a fire person, and then they cut the scene where she's on her deathbed and then she just dies, and it was like that guilt is so strong. It's like, well, your grandma died and that's her dying wish, so therefore you need to do this. And then so Ember's just like, oh, okay.
I know a lot of people who had this exact thing happen to them.
But I mean, I think also the story also reminded me a lot of Joy Luck Club, because they're also an interracial side plot as well too in that movie, where like she brings a white boyfriend home too, and it reminded me a lot of that scene with Wade's family, and that kind of, you can sense those like they kind of see Ember very differently, and then they kind of make those comments like, oh, you're very articulate for someone like yourself. Yes. And then so it was nice to have those like elements as well too. To kind of further the like just those dynamics, the complexity of interracial dating, because like, yes, like a lot of like of us like, oh yeah, like date within your race because of X, Y, and Z and like certain things, but at the same time it's like you can't help but who you fall in love with as well too.
Yeah.
As long as they're able to accept your differences and understand like who you are and like and where you come from. That yeah, so I love that they like explored that within this world of Elemental, where you had all those like themes of immigrant like experience, and at the same time like facing prejudice and all that. So
yeah, no, it's very, very true. And I love the fact that like they eventually do come around, because like even in my family, my parents were always like, you got to make sure you marry a Pakistani girl. And then the first girl my brother brings back is an Arab, and they're like, yeah, we have no problem with it. I was like, what? You were bluffing the whole time?
Yep.
I was like, it was just a bluff. They didn't care at all. They never cared.
I've seen that.
It was just like a nice to have, and they just made it seem like it was a must. And like my brother didn't take the bait. He was like, nope. He brought home a girl from Iraq, and they love him. They love their family. We get along with them perfectly. So like it was a bluff the whole time, which like made me mad. I was like, what the hell?
Right. This entire time, growing up,
I know
I had the same issue. Like straight up, my parents say, "Oh yeah, you're only gonna marry a specifically this one subculture from Pakistan, right? And that's what happened with me and my sister. My sister ended up marrying an Indian guy, and it was so funny when mom and dad figured it out, and then dad was like, "All right, whatever." And mom was initially hesitant, but then when she heard his career, she was like, "Okay, it's fine now." It's because he was a doctor, and she was just like, "Okay, it's okay now." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? After all this time, that's all it took?" Like,
I know.
oh,
That's
I
fun.
was so pissed.
Yeah, I know so many people who are like, yeah, their parents didn't agree, and then once they get married, they like love the son-in-law or the
Mhm.
sister-in-law. Like they just absolutely love them, and it was like these motherfuckers. They were bullshitting the whole time. They were like they love him more than his actual kids. Like I
Yeah,
know a lot of couples like that, so it's really funny. A lot of the times, it's coming from their trauma, but once they like actually get to know the person, it goes away. So
definitely.
that's very interesting with immigrants. Um, all right. So we also, speaking of trauma, we find out that Ember has some trauma from her childhood because they try to go to this museum and they were like, no fire people allowed. And they got really belligerent with her and her dad, which I thought was crazy. And that's something that like she went through, and she's like also not like really like into like she's not as progressive. She's kind of like her dad, but then she's also a little bit more open to it. But it's because she had the experience with her dad that made her feel that way. What were your
Mhm.
thoughts on that scene? I felt really bad for her.
Yeah, that scene was. I mean, that's a very common, I think, experience for a lot of people to kind of just be like having that idea, like a place where you're not like because of who you are and because of how you look, you can't
Yeah.
be in this space. Like I feel a lot of people have it's a far too common experience, unfortunately. But yeah,
Mm.
I think especially when it was like something that was very close to her, and then she felt some like a something that resonated. It was like Visaria. It was called the Visaria
Yeah,
flower.
the cereal
When she
flower.
explained to it how like it can grow anywhere, and then it's symbolic of someone like her, like who's like just kind of someone who is not like out of her own element, and like trying to navigate these spaces and like being outside of her comfort zone. And then so for her to not be able to have that experience like everyone else was, yeah, it's traumatizing. And I think also to see her father also like her father reacting to it as well too probably had an
Yeah.
impact as well too. um yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
Jazz,
think
you
we
want to say
all
something?
had that experience, and like, yeah, I think a lot of immigrant people have had that experience. But I'm at that point with my trauma where like, if it has happened in the past, I've probably said things against them, and now I'm at the point where I don't even remember what they were, just because I'm just gonna block it out of my head. Like I'm 100% sure I've had these experiences, but for some reason in this exact moment I cannot remember a single one. So yeah,
Mm,
the trauma's real, people.
yeah. So as Wade and Ember are hanging out, they find out where this flooding is coming from, and they kind of make this like arrangement with the cloud lady and saying, hey, if we can get this fixed, can you not fine my dad's store or take away the license? Also, shout out to the dad for doing all this restoration without a permit. I thought that was funny. But then yeah, she finds these sandbags and she realized she can use her powers to turn sand into glass, which is cool and educational. So you get to learn a little bit something about that. I thought that was really cool. And then they go on after that they go on a kind of little date and start to really like each other. What are your thoughts about the whole sandbag thing, and then also how they started hanging out afterwards? And then you see like the rom-com aspect of it.
I That's my favorite scene I think of the movies when they start going on dates and then you
Yeah,
hear, is it Love? LAU, I can't remember, like the song
yeah,
Steal the Show. Oh my
yeah.
god. I love that song so much. I think it was just such a great addition to the movie because it just makes you feel like, lovey-dovey and get butterflies in your stomach when you're like being attracted and start liking someone. So
Hmm.
it was a beautiful like kind of rom-com montage. And I love the scene where I think Ember's like doing, like, I don't know, she was doing something for like the Cloud Kids, and then like Wade's like just staring at her really lovingly, and it was just like, oh, so cute. So
Yeah. And I like the fact when they took a picture in the photo booth and you can't see either of them 'cause it's just light.
But that's
Uh,
I think that's foreshadow in a way too, that light, because yeah, later I think it's nice that they had those moments and then it kind of led somewhere
yeah.
at the
The
end.
mom finds the picture, but because the light's so bright, she can't tell it's a water person. So like it adds another element to that, which I thought was really cool. Um, also when she is at the shop, Wade shows up with inside a water vase, and then he goes in there, and then he tells her dad that he's a food inspector, and then he has to try their spicy food. That was the funniest
That
scene.
scene
I
was
really, really liked that. And he's just like eating the food, and I was like, he can't handle the spice. I'm like,
mhm.
all right, I see where they're going with this. And then he was like, it's not that bad if you just put a little
You
call it,
water
I don't
it
know,
down. Like
water it down.
Yeah, literally water it down.
again, go
Got
back to the
so
dialogue, which is so like it was so good. Yeah, let me just water this down, and then Bernie just did not have it.
he just lost it. I thought that was so funny.
Also, I love how he has a was it the people who are banned? Like he has photos of
Yeah,
all. I seen that in like Korean like convenience store. This is like just a list of people who have like stolen or just done something that got
yeah,
on that list was a nice touch too.
I've seen that, the wall of shame.
Yeah.
That was so funny. Uh, yeah, I don't know, I thought that was really cool. But then after that, we visit Wade's family, and this is where you can see, like, they're not treating her, like, in an offensive way, but there is some subtlety there that, like, only a person of color can pick up. Like, people
Hmm.
are probably watching this, and they're probably thinking like, "Oh, Wade's family treated her so nice," and then, like, I'm here like, "Nope, I I
The
I hear it.
The
microaggressions.
I
Yep.
microaggression.
hear the microaggressions,
Yeah.
right? Like you said earlier, like, "Oh, you're so articulate," or like, saying these things and asking these questions, and you're like,
Hmm.
okay, okay, I know where they're going here." What were your thoughts about the meeting the family part?
It was good. I think yeah, it was like giving like guess who's coming to dinner vibes
Mhm.
too. And then going back to Joyla Club, kind of those moments of like introducing someone who is not doesn't look like your family into the family, and then
Yeah.
kind of seeing how they do for the first time. Like I think a lot of people can like the universal experience of bring your significant other to a family function, especially like if they're people of color in those communities, is a very big deal too. Like it's like it shows that you want them to be a part of their life in some sort of aspect. So I think that scene with Wade and Ember was a good representation of that. And then
Mhm.
also just to see like the comparisons of like what Ember's family like home life is versus where Wade comes from.
Mhm.
And I really liked how the mom also was very emotional. Like I love how all of them just cry.
They just cry over
They
everything. They're
just
so
cry over
emotional.
small things. Like yeah, like was it butterfly? I forgot what
Yeah.
was the words they were using when they were playing the game.
Yeah, they have this game where they try to make each other cry, and then they try to make,
But they'll
Ember
make each
cry.
other cry, or like it was like it's yeah, they can cry. Like
Yeah,
they're
and then
yeah.
Amber's like, "There's no way you're gonna make me cry. I'm uncryable." And then he says something about like, uh, an old man, and he finds his love, or they do a lot of things that nothing makes her cry, but then he finally says something, that makes her cry, which I thought was really cool because there's a callback to that at the very end, and I just love the way it came back together because I did not see
Yeah.
that coming, and I thought it was very, very well put together. So I really, really love that part. Um, and now the mom has figured out that they've been kind of seeing each other. And she's like, "You guys can't
Mhm.
be together. Look, the astrology thingy doesn't work. Like, look at your fire and his fire." And then he
You can't
does
make a
this
fire.
thing, and
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, he can't make fire. And then he uses her fire and uses the water of his body to kind of act like a magnifying glass to kind of like make fire. And I was like,
Mhm.
that's so clever. I really, really like that part.
That was such a brilliant
That was
scene.
so
It's
well
like,
done.
even in real life, like, you have two people who complement each other and then you can make the magic happen. Like, it was just
Hmm.
so perfect the way they did it. And I'm so glad they did it this way.
Like it's chemistry, and you're like, oh wait, chemistry like that, but also chemistry like that. Yeah. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of chemistry, the park where they had their date was shaped like the periodic table of elements, which I
Yes.
thought was really cool. I love these little details. They're
Yes.
so cool on here. So the mom is kind of like, "Oh shit," he told me. She's kind of having second thoughts, which I thought was really cool. And we also see that they go on this date to find this flower that she did not get to see because of racism. And he goes and he puts her inside this little bubble with the cloud lady, and she goes and she could finally see this flower. And he put her in danger a little bit for sure, but still it was really, really great. And then at the end they touch, and as they touch, they actually don't hurt each other, which is a actual real life what you call it,
It's called
a
the
chemical
latent
thing.
frost effect.
Yeah, the latent frost effect. Yeah, where you can,
Oh.
like, a super hot surface can touch a liquid and it creates a layer of vapor between the two, which keeps it from like evaporating, which I thought was really, really cool. uh, I just love how they're throwing like little tidbits of science in here. It's so cool. I really, really enjoyed that. What were your thoughts about Wade taking her on this date?
I loved it. It was very thoughtful of him to kind of, I mean, just know that she mentioned it, like that, like her confiding to Wade with that very traumatic experience and
Yeah,
wanting her to have that moment and finding a way to give, make that dream come true for her. And I also love how the Cloud Lady kind of is like a supporting character, kind of comes back because
yeah,
in the beginning when like I mean she like they had like a kind of a like they were butting or head butting each other in terms of like just because they both had a hot temper, but then they were
yeah,
also calling each other kind of I guess like microaggressions or stereotypes about each other as well, and then somehow they kind of resolved it or kind of saw through each other,
yep,
and they kind of have a better relationship for it. And so I liked how she came back to help Ember like see the Visaria underwater. So
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it's cool because like, um, I a lot of times people that are working in the government or in service industries, um, you know, people will hate them when they're just doing their job. And so this was really cool that they just pointed out, okay, in the context of her working, yes, she might be being a hard ass, but that's her job.
mhm.
Outside of that, she's a completely different person. And it's really cool.
Yeah,
Like you see her at the,
yeah,
what was it, a basketball soccer hybrid kind of thing
yeah.
that they were playing. Then you see her in this context, like, oh yeah, these are just normal people. Like live and
Work
let
life
live, people.
balance
It's all
there.
good. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And as for the
exactly.
date, I mean, who hasn't put their potential partner in an extremely dangerous situation? Like, it's also totally relatable. Like,
Okay, okay, Jazz. You want that trauma bonding?
Yeah.
Heightened
please,
sense of
Neebs,
fear.
tell me you wouldn't do this, all right? Because I know you've done this where you've gone on a plane and you've got like walked onto the top of it.
Yeah,
Would you or would you not take a girl there?
no, I wouldn't take a girl there. No,
Really?
when I go on a date with a girl, I have a sense of responsibility for her, so I would not put her in danger. I don't think I do that. I
Bro,
would put my life in danger for sure because I don't give a shit about living or dying. But but I cannot take somebody else's child to a dangerous state. I won't do that. I don't even like speed when I'm in the car with a date. Like I am so like I really, really take care of my dates. I don't want to get them. I don't put them in danger at all because like brown moms, like they'll come after me, bro. I'm not so scared of them. I'm so scared of
So it's more
hey man.
out of fear than
them.
the
For sure. I'm more scared of brown moms than I am of like walking on a plane without a parachute. Trust me, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Speaking of parents, though, we got this backstory of the dad, and when he left his Fire Nation or whatever, not an Avatar reference, but actually a Fire Nation, uh, his he bowed to his dad, and his dad never bowed back to him, and it always like hurt him. And this part was the part that got me because like my dad left for America and he left like, his dad there and stuff like that. And he left like his other siblings to kind of take care of him because he wanted to come make a life here in America. And like his dad was like kind of resentful of it. And I was like, oh, this really got me. This is the part where I was like really, really rough. What are your thoughts about that? The dad and his relationship with leaving?
like I get it. I mean it's like it's very yeah, again it's a very I'm sure a lot of like of their parents had similar experiences where for whatever like reasons like and I'm sure valid reasons of wanting to create a better life for themselves and like for their partners and for their families. And it's so like I have so much respect for anyone who like can just like uproot their whole lives and what they all like just have always known their entire lives, and then just to go into the unknown in a way.
Yeah.
So it's like I felt for Bernie, and then from because of that, you kind of have more, you get more insight into why he does the things that he does, and why he does, or just who he is, and then why he wants so much for Ember.
Yeah. That's so true. The other thing is, I think they did mention that like something was happening in his island, which is like why they couldn't sustain people or something. I don't know whether it was related
It's
to
like a
climate
storm.
change or something like that. I forgot what
Yeah,
it was.
yeah, like a
I
storm hit
wanted,
their
yeah,
village thing.
yeah, and then because of that, like there wasn't enough work there or whatever. So because of that, his dad had to leave. I don't know. I really liked that part. I thought that was really good. Jazz, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's so real because, you know, not too long ago, in the beginning of our podcast, right, we would always have this little bit where we'd say, "Hey, donate to the flood victims of Pakistan," right?
Yeah.
And these are real life situations where, you know, the world's not ready for something like climate change, right? And we
Mhm.
saw this example here in the movie where one part of the world was being affected by something, that's we are as a collective responsible for. Um, and then they lost their home and then they had to move. They became climate refugees. That's
Mhm.
happening right now. And seeing this also is just great because you don't expect something so heavy to be in a Pixar film. But here we are. And I'm glad they're talking about it because if they're not going to talk about it, I don't know how we're going to get the word out.
Listen, there's always something heavy in a Pixar film. Have you seen Up? I cried in the first 12 minutes, bro. They couldn't even. I couldn't make it to 15
Pixar is
minutes.
just built differently. Pixar.
Yeah,
Those
Pixar
first
is.
12 minutes were so good.
Yeah. All right. So her dad surprises her with a sign saying, "Hey, I wasn't going to share this with you, but I might as well share it with you now." And he has a new sign instead of the fireplace. It's called Ember's Place because he's going to give the store to her because he's so proud of her and how she's becoming. So they're doing this whole grand opening. And they're going to pass like the torch, get it torch, to Ember, and Wade comes in and he interrupts the whole thing. And this is a very Bollywood vibe because you always see this in Bollywood movies. Like there's a wedding happening or some kind of event happening, and the hero just comes in and interrupts it and stops it. Um, and he just told her not to give up on her dream. And then her dad's kind of like, what's this person doing here? I'm surprised he didn't call him like a elemental slur or something. He was so mad. But then he finds out, you know what? No, I'm not gonna give you the business. I'm gonna stay on this business, which I thought was really funny. What were your whole thoughts about the interaction at the grand opening?
I'm not so even surprised that at least at that moment, Ember decided, like, I mean, in front of like you're causing a scene in front of all like my family and my community, so I'm not going to take your side on this, like just purely just because you're interrupting everything. But I mean, it's a also referring back to earlier where she was having this kind of similar conversation with Wade about like, yeah, like why don't you tell your like that you don't want this, like you don't want to do, like you want to pursue other creative outlets, and then her saying that like my family has sacrificed so much, like what, how can I even repay a sacrifice that big? Maybe just
Yes.
my life. And that hit so hard too, where it was like I'm like oof. um
Like
so
say
I'm not
less,
surprised
girl,
because
say
of
less.
that. Yeah, I'm not surprised that she would at that moment, like I can't give you what you want, I can't just leave all of this when my father has done all of this for me, like literally name this like his her name is stuck in a big sign. I remember her just seeing like the sign and like her turning it on and off and just being like, how do I like, I can't like not accept this.
Yeah, very true. Jazz, what are your thoughts?
Like you said, this was a Bollywood thing.
Yeah.
It's not even Bollywood. I feel like this is just like in every rom com of some type. That trope where they come in and then just interfere with whatever's going on, and then they have to act angry, and then
Yeah.
everybody hates them. It's just so common. I'm just like, all right, okay, cool. This is happening. Um, I wasn't exactly happy with the scene. I feel like it was overdone, but it has to be done for the next part of the movie to work. and that's just what it is. However, I will say I loved the outfits they were wearing in the scene. Everything looked
Yes,
so good. The
fire.
colors were
Hmm.
brilliant. Yeah, fire, quite literally, right? Just phenomenal, man. Like they knew what they were doing. It was just good.
All right. So as this is happening, we see Ember and she's looking over uh at a representation, I think a battery park or something. And what happens is she sees the dam break. So they go out this whole thing, they see the dam break. Uh Wade also sees this and goes in and tries to help her, and they have to save this fire that they brought over from their like motherland, and it's very very important. And Ember goes in and tries to save it. Wade goes in after her, and they get trapped in a room. But since they're trapped in a room and Ember is fire, she makes him evaporate. Yo, this was sad. This was sad. I was like I thought this motherfucker died.
Yeah.
I thought he was dead. I was like, oh shit, how are they doing this to us? I was like, no way. I did not think he was gonna come back. What were your thoughts, Marmar?
Yeah, it was like I was kind of like, oh wow, is he gone? Oh shit, he just like yeah, he floated and it basically turned into air. But yeah, I mean yeah, it to Jazz's point, yeah, obviously like what happened like and then it led into this kind of moment, and I really like how that dam like yeah the dam breaking or like having that like it being broken was very symbolic of just kind of like it was like overarching kind of plot
Yeah.
throughout the movie and how like something like that like from the water like kind of community kind of interfering and kind of like becoming a disturbance into the fire like community as
Mhm.
well too and then kind of yeah okay, yeah just kind of stirring things up and kind of like yeah the water literally kind of invading and kind of destroying everything that the fire like community has built um and yeah like that kind of like blue flame kind of representing kind of everything like the reason why the parents came to Elemental City in the first place, and that's why Ember like was going to sacrifice or just risk everything to try to save it, even if it also meant like Wade also having to kind of to go as well. um but even the fact that Wade was like without hesitation just went back and like to save
Yeah.
the store and save Ember. Yeah, it was very rom-commy and yeah, I ate it
Yeah.
up.
Big hero moment. Jazz,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
You know, I kind of saw that he wasn't gonna die, and I'm just like, yo, it's the water cycle, right? Water evaporates, condenses, comes back.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way they're gonna die. But for a moment, it did have me in the middle. Like,
Yeah.
even after knowing that, they still got me for a bit there, and they just did it so well.
Because they didn't do it. They were like, "Oh, we're just gonna cool the room and make him become, water again." No, they actually did it with his emotions, which is what they did. They made him cry, and he's so
Hmm.
easy to make cry. And then she uses the same lines that he used on her to make him cry. So that moment
Yeah,
was really sweet. I did like that, and I was like, "Oh, they brought it back. They brought it back full circle." I was super
they
happy
love
about
each
that.
other. How
I even
cute.
like how the parents got into it, like, hey, say something to make him cry. And then Bernie was like, you're not banned from the store. Or he said banned. You're not banned. Like kind of the father-in-law kind of approval. And then he was
Yeah.
like, oh yay. And then he like happy tears. That's
That
hilarious.
was so cool. And then we got him back. And then everything is great. And then we see a little bit of like a little prologue where they're kind of like happy. She's going to school to learn art. And then the father is taking care of the store, but he's hiring more people, so he has to do less. Like everything seems to be working out. And then like this is the part that got me. So like I haven't cried at all throughout this movie. But then when she does the bow, oh, that's what
Yeah.
got me.
That bow got me too.
The bow got me. I was like,
I
no.
was just like, oh my god. Like just like oh no. Yeah,
I was.
and it was cathartic. It was so a cathartic
It
release
was.
of everything that led up to it.
It was like the dam breaking, like
Yes!
my
Oh my
dam
god,
broke.
yes!
It just like literally everywhere. I'm like, no. I was like, I almost made it through a Pixar
I
movie
almost
without
made it.
crying. I almost did. And then they did that bow thing, and then he did the bow back to her, and I was like, oh man, damn it, they got me. I'm done.
What's also
Hmm.
nice too is that I mean it goes back to maybe just the differences of the communities where like a lot of like at least like we don't like explicitly show emotions or like at least say I love you all the time. So
Yeah.
those kind of moment like those like the action speaks louder than words where
Yes.
even though you saw like Wade and his mom like just crying and the drip 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 and they're like emotional like and
Yep.
then like the parents and like Ember were just like looking at them like judging like oh, okay this is how they interact with each other but it was
Yes.
just those moments it made it even more impactful when they bowed and then they like went
Yeah. It's like that meme. It's like immigrant parents don't apologize. They'll just bring you fruit.
yes
Like
That's exactly what it was. Yep.
yes he's like what do you want for dinner and it's like were we not going to talk about what you just said to me 5 minutes ago
nope. Nope.
we're never going to speak about it again cool
All is forgiven.
Yeah,
I'm
water
gonna
under the
forgive
bridge.
me for you.
yes
All right. I do have some cool Easter eggs that I thought were really cool of the show. We mentioned the park being shaped like the periodic table. That was really cool. We talked about how the movie took 7 years to make. There's a character in here called Ghibli, which is based off of Studio Ghibli. So it's a little bit of a reference to that, which I thought was really, really cute.
who's Ghibli
Yeah, Ghibli was I don't know. It was I think one of the little kids.
was it the kid that was hitting on Ember
Yeah, maybe.
I love that little kid.
Yeah,
He was like got some riz with him. He was just
yeah,
trying
he
to
definitely had some riz. I
he
like
liked the
that.
fire girls.
We talked about how the windbreakers and the cop dressers are fart jokes, which I thought was really funny. Let's see. Uh, I think that was it. I think those were all of the little Easter eggs that I found. But other than that, it was really good. I really like this movie. It was a sleeper hit. So more people probably have not seen this, so I highly recommend you do. But if you're listening to this podcast, we probably just spoiled the entire thing for you. So oops.
You still see it though. You should still see it.
You should still see it. It's really, really great. Also, we give you the play by play, a little bit of the breakdown. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Marmar, before we go, do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah. Marmar, you said 2022 on TikTok. I'm also on Instagram as just marmar.yisa. I'm also on Letterbox and I'm also on Serialize, which is the TV version of Letterbox. So I have a lot of unhinged reviews on both those like platforms. So I kind of review across all the platforms. So, but that's where you'll find me.
Very cool. I need to get on Letterbox. What is Letterbox? I just know like people review stuff
Yeah.
there, but like, is there like a social media aspect to it too, or how does it work?
Honestly, there's not really much of a social media aspect. I think you can make comments on like people's reviews. That's
Yeah.
more of the social engagement side of things. But a lot of it's just kind of posting reviews and then kind of just seeing kind of like what other people are talking about those movies. It's kind of similar to like the Rotten Tomatoes or like kind of like the kind of a forum. But
Cool.
yeah,
Serialized. Check that out. Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jazz. Any last thoughts before we go?
I'm just gonna point out this comment here where this guy took his wife rappelling down a 300-foot sinkhole for their honeymoon. Yeah, vindicated.
Fun. That's awesome. That is awesome. All right, cool beans. Thank you guys for joining us, and everybody who joined us on the chat, and everybody listening on Spotify. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, give us a good review, get us on the algorithm. And until next time, guys, Salaam nerds.